how often are you guys making new lead magnets? What do you think allows a lead magnet to be something that will then build trust and allow someone to take the next step in the funnel and eventually go to that bigger core offer?
On the lead magnet side of things, essentially, there's a lot of different ways to do this, okay? I think that what we're currently doing, because we're also just constantly learning the newest stuff, and then what we're sharing with founders and people in Founder OS is like the newest game that we're seeing work. And so the newest way that I see things working is as follows, okay? So you want, first off, in any piece of content, the best lead magnet is the most contextually like relevant next step for the person to take that will provide them a benefit and allow them to quickly get that benefit and then take the next step that you need them to take. So let's illustrate this like really simply, right? Let's say I have an Instagram carousel that's how to start a personal brand in 7 days, let's say. Well, they go through that, they understand their content categories, their content intellectual property, their content waterfall system. Then I say, hey, I've gone and provided you with a matrix that you can go and audit your content strategy and lay out the fundamentals of your content waterfall system. Go and comment waterfall. They comment waterfall. ManyChat then goes in Instagram and sends them the lead magnet. They open up a Google Doc. In that Google Doc now, let's just say there's a Loom video from me and then the lead magnet. And in the Loom video, they watch it for 2 minutes. They learn how to go and fill it out. And I say, hey, when you're done filling this out, book a call with us below. We'll take what you just did. Don't worry if it's perfect or not. Book a call with us and we'll get on a free call with you where we go and help you understand your audit, what's working, what's not, get you over any blockers you're currently experiencing. And whether or not you work with us or whatever, like we just want to make sure you're good to go. And if you want some information on FounderOS and how we help folks in your situation, we'd be happy to do that too, right? And so what has that done? Well, it's contextual to the lead magnet they just got. And it's also enough information, but not too much that they're going to like work on it for 2 weeks long and just take forever with it. Or more importantly, just never do it or be like, whoa, this is insane, right? It's got to be enough to be helpful and then move them on to the next step. And that next step also has to be contextual to the lead magnet, right? The call that I just brought up is a brand audit call. So they've just gone through this audit and now they're getting on a brand audit call. So what's happening here, right? When you do this right, it becomes what I'd call like a slippery slope, right? In a good way, where they're like, they don't even realize how they almost got on the call because it was all just so logical and beautiful and really helpful. And I think that what allows you to do this? Well, let's just take a step out of all this, right? And where I think people get tripped up, and I think the core value that we have that helps us with this is we are insanely generous, right? So at any moment, I'm not worried about, oh, did we share too much? Did we give people too much that they're not going to buy this thing? That's all bullshit, in my opinion, right? The reality is that, sure, you're right. Some people will watch that thing and they would have bought something and now they're not going to because you shared that. But you also, because you were so valuable and generous, you widened your overall pie. And so, yeah, now you have, instead of just 100 people that saw it, 10,000 people that saw it. Yeah, a bunch of people now are never going to buy your shit, but another 9,000 are like kind of interested and 3,000 of them are going to book a call. And you just made honestly 10x more cash flow, right? So you won and your brand won because 10,000 people saw you be so freaking generous. And back to why I even do any of this stuff, like I was saying, to be of service. And the most powerful force in humanity is reciprocity, right? So just the more generous you are, that shit what goes around comes around kind of vibe, right? So that's like my overall thinking with lead magnets in a nutshell. And I think, again, the core word there is contextual, where people screw up as they're like, if you like this, you love my newsletter, like, wrong, you know what I mean? Or, hey, you like this newsletter, book a call, wrong. Like it's too jarring, It's like these, you win or lose online these days in like these micro interactions, right? And any piece of cognitive dissonance, any piece of like, oh, what? Or, oh,
yeah,
like
you
get people to do that even just ever so slightly. It's a moment, right? But you do that even for a moment, you lose, right? But if you can think about, okay, they just saw this and what's that next logical thing they would do, right? You just want these nice, steady steps that people take And that's how you win.
So how many different lead magnets would you recommend someone have? Like if they're just starting out, probably just one, or do you recommend having like thinking about the different content pillars that you're talking about, thinking about multiple different lead magnets?
So how I think about it, I think this is like intermediate and simple and V1.
Sure.
And for some people, it's going to be like, really, I got to do that. It's like, well, if you want to do this in like a real way, I would recommend this. So it's as follows, right? Let's just say you're building a brand and you have 3 content categories, right? You're a founder in e-commerce building dog treats. Well, one is going to be like, helping, dog owners have healthy pets. One is going to be like the best routes, maybe to go on dog walks. And then the next one's all going to be about like health and wellness. I don't know, right? So those are your 3 categories, right? What I would recommend then is like, okay, on those categories, what are like the 10 titles that you're going to have, say, on your Instagram content that month? Let's just say Instagram was your core platform. So now you've got like your content calendar mapped out based on those 3 content categories. Then off of that, right, the minimum viable lead magnets is simply just going and saying, okay, on the health and wellness ones that we do this month, what should we lead people to that would more or less be the next logical step when we're talking about health and wellness? And maybe that's like, hey, the 100 trends we're seeing in the dog food space in 2026. I don't know, right? And then you do that with each different category, right? Where you kind of have every month in those 3 categories, 3 different lead magnets that map nicely to those different subjects that you have in there, right? So that's like intermediate, in my opinion. Beginner would be that you just have one really badass one that hopefully is a really badass catch-all. And then advanced would be you basically stop thinking about how many and you just start to think more about, okay, like what's the most badass content strategy this month? What's the shit we're putting out? And what is required to make sure that in each of those, there's a next logical step that's really badass and convincing for someone that watched it. And many times that's something you've already made. Awesome. And equally as, fired up is if you have to make something new and you're like, that's just what we got to do because we're operating at a really high level and we're going to make the new thing. And you should have a system by which you create lead magnets that's not so like, oh my God, a lead magnet. It's like, guys, come on. Like you're going to make 100 over the next 2 years. Maybe how do you do the title page? How long is it? What are the core ways you do it? Like you should have a template for it. You should have a person on your team that can rip that stuff in an hour and a half or less, right? And then it's not a thing. It's just, make a lead magnet around this. And then, make sure the titles of it are tested because as David Ogilvy says in advertising, 80 cents in your dollar are spent by the time someone's gotten past your headline, right? So your headline, your first line of your tweet is the one that matters most. The headline of your article is the one that matters the most. And the title of your lead magnet matters the most. So, how do you go and nail a title of a lead magnet? There's a lot of ways to go and nail a title of a lead magnet. Look at the best subject lines of your newsletters you've ever sent. Maybe that would make a good title of a lead magnet. Go and use a tool like oneof10.com and go and research really amazing YouTube titles in your niche and then use one of those badass YouTube titles and remix it for a lead magnet title. So there's lots of ways to do this. But that's kind of the 80-20.
Yeah.